This is Alex Howard reporting from the Government 2.0 Expo here in Washington, D.C. And with me I've got Dustin Haisler, the CIO and Assistant City Manager of Manor, Texas. Nice to see you, Dustin.
Yeah, great to meet you in person.
You too. Usually we know each other just from the social media world where you are active. The little Twitter image. So here in the flesh. Manor's a big place. 6,000 odd people.
6,500 people, 35 employees.
There you go.
East of Austin, Texas.
And I learned today that apparently you're the IT guy.
I am the IT guy too.
So
I'm the help desk and the CIO.
You wear a lot of hats. And how have you made that work? Because this is a city that uses technology in a lot of ways.
Right. So the goal of all of our technology is just to be sustainable. We want to make sure that it's something that's easy to support. So, like with our open innovation platform, the key was having it automated, where the residents really drive the platform. And that's taken the burden off of me, because then we essentially crowdsource those components as well. So that's the key in all of our innovations, is to find something that's manageable, that's sustainable, and that really doesn't create an additional workload for us.
And what technologies have you chosen to use for your platform?
For the Open Innovation Platform, we use Spigot, and they're a company based out of California, and they provide a really interesting framework for open innovation because it uses game mechanics. And the game mechanics reward people for participating in the platform. So if someone submits an idea, they get a virtual currency set amount, and we call it InnoBucks. It's 5,000 InnoBucks. And if they vote on an idea, it's 150 InnoBucks. And if their idea is implemented, it's 300,000 InnoBucks. And then they can take these InnoBucks and they can trade them in for real products. Being like a gift certificate to a restaurant in Manor that's been donated, or they can be mayor for a day, or they can ride out with the police chief. But there's always a perceived tangible benefit to participating in the platform, and we found that to be really the motivating trigger to get people to innovate for the city of Manor.
And what's the benefit to the city?
The city gets amazing ideas that we would have never thought of. Yeah. Someone asked that we have an RSS feed for all of our work orders. We never thought that would be a need, or that a resident would even be interested in that kind of data. And so we work with C-Click-Fix, and we have used them as our primary work order system ever since then, so that residents can see exactly what's going on in real time for their city.
In terms of people's engagement with the platform, are you guys seeing a pickup?
Yeah, and the great thing about the platform using game mechanics, if they don't sign on for a week, their reputation will fall on the platform. So we try to keep them motivated using a series of things developed by Spigot to want to come back and participate on the platform. We had someone from Stanford that went on vacation for 2 weeks, and she got back and her reputation had fallen by a certain percentage, and she'd missed out on all these opportunities to comment and vote, and she got back on and just hammered the platform with ideas and suggestions because she wanted to build it back up. So we try to find multiple ways to really engage and motivate people who want to participate.
You mentioned releasing a certain amount of data through RSS. What other kinds of data are you releasing as a town?
So we're looking at open data and trying to find creative ways to give citizens open data, because what we found is that government comes halfway with relaying information to citizens. We're good at putting data in a repository, which is basically like a document dump. And it's good for mashup artists, and it's good for newspapers and developers to create really cool apps, but you're relying on a third party all the time to translate the information. So our goal is to, in addition to have raw data dumps, we want to create a mechanism that citizens can actually interpret the information. And so part of that is you're going to have standards for open data. You're going to have tools to compare the data. What we found is that if citizens only have a basis of comparison to city data, it's not very valuable. They need to be able to compare it to other communities that are similar sizes and see, in a visual way, how the data impacts them. What is their financial footprint in addition to their carbon footprint? And so we're looking at different mechanisms to try to give them a tool to interpret this information and not necessarily rely solely on third-party developers. We know they're very important, but we think government needs to go all the way with data to citizens.
And what tools are you providing them to do that? How do you?
So augmented reality is something that we just started getting into with our citizens. So we're taking our work orders and we're putting them in an augmented reality state, where we want our citizens to be able to use their phones and see exactly what's going on in their community.
So explain what that means to someone who doesn't. That's a great concept. I understand it, but what does that mean to a citizen?
So a citizen can take their phone and they can open an app on their phone, and instead of viewing a list of just where all the work orders are, very unengaging, no one would want to do it. They can actually see in a virtual viewfinder on their phone using the camera and their GPS location what's around them, what's going on, what's happening, how long it's taking to respond to things. So that our goal is to get to that point where we give them information in a very intuitive way, where they can understand it, make sense of all the data, and then take it to make better decisions and better ideas for our city.
I noticed in your presentation here at the Expo that you're actually using QR codes too.
Right.
Can you explain what a QR code is and how the city's using it?
A QR code.
The city manager sitting next to us is passing in the code here. It's Phil Tate, who Dustin works with. So here we go. And a code.
So
okay.
we have a QR code. This is a quick response barcode. It's a two-dimensional barcode, and it's an open standard, and so which means it doesn't cost us anything as a city. And the amazing thing about this little code is that you can read it with your cell phone. And what we do with these, we started putting them out just on historical markers and other things that were interesting, and our residents could scan it with their cell phone, and it would take them to a URL that was optimized for their mobile phone, and they could view information about that house. Well, when you link to a URL, you can always update the content on the URL. So we thought, what else can we do with it? So we started putting it on some of our assets. We started tagging our vehicles with it. We have it on water tanks that we were constructing, any of our capital construction projects. They have a QR code in addition to the required wooden sign that says this is your bond money at work. And our citizens can go and they can scan it and they can see real-time information about the project.
Are they doing it, picking it up?
They are. They're picking it up because they're engaged to find out information now on their own. So we've taken the bulletin board approach to putting up information where you just bombard them with all kinds of information that they have to interpret and give them information that they're only interested in. So if someone sees a water tank at that moment in time, they're not going to remember when they get home that they want to look up information about the water tank. Well, they can go and they can scan the barcode on it, and they can view information on in real time on that water tank.
How much did it cost to roll out QR codes?
First phase, $400. The only cost is the material you print it on. So if you print it on a piece of paper, it's just pennies. If you print it on a metal sign, it's probably about $40 or so.
Okay, so you've got to have real business value associated with it.
That's right. But the great thing about it is when the project's complete, since you link to a URL, you can just change what the content is on that URL because we control it. So you can move it to another project. And so you're not having to reprint barcodes. You just circulate a series of barcodes for all your projects.
Okay, so you've got you're using augmented reality. You've playing around with game mechanics. You're using QR codes to tie things together. You've got an active WordPress installation for your blog, including a GovFresh theme from Luke Fretwell out at West. What's next?
So next is the education component of Gov2O. Education is what we found is really lacking from the movement. We have amazing tools, but we don't have a population that knows how to use them, or even employees that see the value out of them. So that's the struggle that we see in every community that we go to is that, how does this add value to my agency? How can I use what you did? How is it scalable? And so we really want to try to focus on education. We partnered with OpenCourseWare, the Open Courseware Consortium, 150 universities all over, and we're publishing courses. We're going to start publishing probably in August, and we have to publish 10 by 2012, focused around Gov2O and what the tools are and how they can use them. And then we're going to reward people for participating and taking those courses on our Manor Labs platform. And the same InnoBuck virtual currency we're going to give them for actually participating on the platform. Okay, well Dustin, thanks for talking with me. You can find you at Dustin Haisler or on Twitter. If someone looked at the QR code just on video, you can find it that way. You can scan me that
and that's manorlabs.org.
That's right.
You're part of it. And then it's cityofmanor.org.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much.